Hello, welcome back. It is week 84 here on Out on That Line. I'm Geoff with my co-host Alex. As always, Alex, how are you this week, buddy?
To quote ZZ Top, I'm big, I'm nationwide, and I'm back from a vacation. We took a week off. It's great to be back with you, Geoff.
You went to the OG Skimbo Lounge.
Yes.
How was that?
I don't want to spoil anything, but it was a beautiful disaster.
It sounds like it usually is then.
Like it usually is, and how it's meant to be.
Oh, yeah. So many years at that place, just debauchery. Just things that our parents would not be proud of us for doing.
Yeah, it's greasy stuff.
It was so fun. Well, this week, Alex, we've got something very important to talk about. We have something that I've been looking forward to discussing on this podcast for quite a while now, because let me tell you, I have consumed this piece of art many, many times since it was released. And that is, of course, the new Coheed and Cambria record, VAXIS II, subtitled A Window of the Waking Mind. And buddy, I'm excited about it.
See, when you launched into that, I thought what you were going to say, I thought you were going to do a little fake out and say you're excited to discuss the piece of art that is Doja Cat sliding into the Stranger Kids things DMs.
God, that would have been way funnier.
I thought you were going
Way
for the
funnier.
fake out, dude. I'm sitting over here with
Shit.
this big ass-licking Cheshire Cat grin, and you were like, Coheed and Cambria. And I was like, I did not see that going that way, but it makes total sense.
Shit, that would have been way funnier. Okay, well, next time we have this exact set of events happen, time is a flat circle, and I'll make sure I do it right the next time. We're going to move on. We're going to move forward. We're going to talk about Doja Cat and her response to getting called out for DMing. What's the actor's name from Stranger Things?
Noah Schnapp or something like that? Schlapp?
Yes, something like that. Noah from Stranger Things plays Will Byers on the show. So Doja Cat DMs him because she's trying to get at the guy that plays Eddie on Stranger Things. And she says, hey, what's his Instagram? And then Noah responds with his Instagram, and Doja Cat goes on her way, apparently. But then Noah posts that on social media, the screenshots of that DM conversation. And Doja Cat did not take that very well. She went on Instagram Live. And did you watch the whole thing, or did you just watch snippets? Because it was kind of long.
I didn't watch a fucking drop of it because it's more Doja drama, and I love Doja Cat, but I'm just like, what is she assing off again? Who's surprised?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it makes sense. Don't poison the well for yourself on Doja,
Yeah.
And we are a pro Doja podcast, and I will say, even after this scandal, I'm still pro Doja. So she gets on Instagram Live, and she just like rips him up, just calling him a weasel and a snake and all this stuff about how, like, this 17-year-old kid, it's like, you DM'd him, like, how much trust should you have put into a 17-year-old kid who's having an international, like, music sensation DM him for the details of one of his coworkers? How would you handle that at 17 years old?
Well, that's exactly what I think it must be, is like Doja Cat was not DMing him and being like, yo, what's up, ASL, for all you people who used to use AOL Instant Messenger back in the day.
Or chat rooms. Don't forget those, like, MSN chat rooms, buddy.
Ooh, delally. Anyway, she wasn't sliding into the 17-year-old's DMs to try to get with him. She, for some reason, I'm like, exactly like you say, she's an international music sensation. She really couldn't have Googled the 29-year-old's account and went to him and been like, name the time and place and we will absolutely grind one out. That's how that could have been accomplished. She has that kind of pull. But instead she went through the teenager.
Can you imagine getting a message like that from anybody? We can grind one out.
She's a beautiful, classy lady.
That's just a poetic way to put that. That was incredible.
Hey, her words, not mine.
Yeah, that is. I mean, I can't. Like, how is that the avenue you go down? You know what I mean? That's like seeing a brightly lit sidewalk. Your power, your influence, your assistant that can probably find out for you how to get in touch with this guy. And then there's the dark alleyway with a bunch of like creeps lurking, And that's the alleyway where you DM the 17-year-old kid trying to get the details for the person you actually want to talk to. I'm like, what are you thinking here? Like, use your brain.
You could have, Doja, you could have your assistant hand deliver your Nuva ring in a box to this guy and he would know it was on. You have that ability, but you went through the teenager who has grown up in Hollywood. He has no functional social skills. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's basically a 3-year-old chimpanzee. He has that kind of social grace. Of course he posted the funny thing because he's like, oh, dude, my co-star's totally going to touch a boob. And he put that up because he was proud of his friend.
And that's, I don't know. Maybe we were talking about it before. It's like, there's just sometimes a lack of critical thought with people, you know, sometimes they just don't think like, okay, well, I do this step. What's the next one look like? You know, and then they walk themselves right off a cliff and you're like, what were you, open your eyeballs, you know, see what's coming, see what's in front of you and like go the right way. And she did not. And then she doubled down and made herself look even worse. She's getting ripped apart on Twitter right now.
Well, it makes sense. She can put her foot in her mouth with the best of them. And I am pro Doja. I regularly wind up in the top 1% of the top 1% of Doja Cat listeners at the end of the year with Spotify. So listen, I'm not going anywhere. But it's because I absolutely bury my head in the sand. Because I can't, if I engaged with this stuff, I'd go crazy.
Yeah, it's just funny to me that she just constantly given a chance to like be better about things, like grow up and be mature. And I respect it. She just chooses not to. She's like, nope, not going that way. Not going to do that. I'm Doja. In whatever way this situation is going to get worse, I'm going to find it.
I mean this as a sincere compliment. I'm going to quote Kurt Vonnegut like you quoted him earlier before we were recording. The problem with dumb bastards is they don't know that being smart is an option. And I say that with all the love in my heart for Doja Cat. I mean that as a compliment. We need people like that.
Yeah, we are still officially pro Doja, people. Don't worry. We might have just done what Twitter's been doing to her for the past couple days. But we're still pro Doja.
It's all in good fun. I'm not like mad at her. I'm not mad at the cat.
Yeah, I just can't. I don't know. Just what a bonehead move. I can't understand. I can't put it any other way. Just a bonehead move.
It's a big bugaboo.
Yeah. Well, what do you say, Alex? We get to the main event here. The newest release from Coheed and Cambria, VAXIS II, A Window of the Waking Mind. Now, I got to ask, how familiar were you with like this new like kind of series, this new storyline, the VAXIS storyline from Coheed?
I'm neither familiar with VAXIS or the Afterman or the Emery Wars. I know these terms. I tried to do some research.
Okay.
It did not go well for me. So I only really know the terms. I don't know much about the stories other than like there's robots and space magic and stuff like that, I guess.
Yes, there's lots going on here. Lots going on. I'm not going to get like super in the weeds here, but so Amory Wars was the 5 albums, Year of the Black Rainbow, Second Stage, Turbine Blade, In Keeping Secrets, and then the 2 Good Apollo albums. So that 5 album cycle was like the Amory Wars. Afterman had 2 albums. That was like a precursor to everything. Like all Amory Wars, everything. VAXIS, this storyline takes place after the Amory Wars, or so we know so far anyway. And VAXIS is like the son of like this version, this like part of the storyline's Coheed and Cambria. So like Coheed and Cambria is named after the parents of the main character of the Amory Wars. And then in VAXIS, it's about the son of 2 other people in this. So that's like kind of the breakdown of like where the storylines are at with this. But I will say that having listened to Coheed and Cambria for a couple of decades now, I mean, since high school, and listened to everything they've ever done over and over, I've never heard anything like what they've done on this album previous from them. And so that to me was like a very interesting part of the whole experience with it, because I really just didn't know what to expect from any given song. And as a prog rock band, I was like, well, this makes a lot of sense that they would do something like this album.
Is that primarily how you identify them, as a a band, or a prog metal, prog rock?
So prog rock for sure. So they have metal songs, but I would not really classify them as a metal band.
Okay. Just because that's the thing, is the Coheed that I'm familiar with, most of which comes off of In Keeping Secrets of Silent Earth 3. Is that the whole title?
Yep.
Yeah. Most of the Coheed I've heard is off of that. I really enjoy that. That's great.
I mean, that's the one that got me into Coheed in the first place in high school. I mean, I remember the day I bought that album and My Chemical Romance, Three Cheers for Sweet Revenge. I bought those two albums from Exile and Main Street the same day. And my God, my life was like never the same after that day. Like, I can't remember who told me about Coheed in the first place, or I think I saw the video for A Favorite House Atlantic on MTV, and I was like, what is this? Like, what is this? And so I looked, downloaded some on LimeWire. I don't know if you remember that. Basically destroyed the family computer. But downloaded some songs there, and I was like, wow, this is really awesome. And so I went down and bought the CD. And at that point, I had no idea that it was a whole storyline. Like, it was part of the Amory Wars. Like, I just was like, oh, and Keeping Secrets of Silent Earth 3, like, this is a weird title. But at that point, I'd been listening to Power Man 5000 and stuff like that, so it like didn't totally throw me off about that. But the first time that I heard like just the way the intro happened, and then it goes right into the title track in Keeping Secrets, I mean, just was blown away that anything could exist that sounded like that. It just like absolutely, I knew from that moment, I was like, that's my band. Like that sound is exactly what I want from music. And they definitely like have gotten, a way away from that in albums since then. They got a little heavier for a while, and then they kind of lightened up, like the Color Before the Sun album. There's not a lot of heavy songs on that. It's a lot of like pop rock. And that's a big reason why I think they're generally a prog rock band, not like a prog metal band. They have songs that you could say are metal, like a Welcome Home. You could, obviously that's a metal song. But they're not in general a metal band, in my opinion. And I think this album that we're going to talk about is like nails that even further.
For me, and we can get into the album, for me, the proggier elements are the most interesting. The more they lean into that, the more I like it. And as we get into the album, on that note, I'm about to break your heart. I didn't like this.
Okay.
So, and we can get into that. But what I was saying to you before the recording too is like, I'm far more interested in your point of view. I can give you my interpretation to jump off of, and I would love to have you lawyer me and like hit me with the Coheed lore and like, well, because it's not like dog shit. It just wasn't for me.
Yeah, and to be honest, that's a kind of a consensus opinion right now. Is like it is very, very like it's one side or the other. There's not a lot of people that are like, yeah, it's okay. It's either you really like it or you really do not. And there's in the message boards right now, like in the comment sections on the Coheed pages, they've been in shambles for weeks because of this album. But it's just, I mean, it is that's the way that every Coheed album, like the past, like probably 5 Coheed albums, it's been that way.
Well, and looking at it from the outside, all I like when I got to the end did was go, this is not, I suspect, for me, but it's for a very passionate community to which you belong. Yeah. So like, I didn't walk away from it with any vitriol. I just went, it's not for me, but it sounds like within the community, an Amory war of its own wages. How interesting.
Yeah. And it's just, I don't know. The thing is, to me, like Coheed has always said that they are a prog band. Like that's their genre. So prog bands, like you can't like stay the same. You know what I mean? Like you have to change. You have to like advance and do different things and try on new stuff and see what works. And the thing is with Coheed, like Claudio is getting older. He's a family man now. So like the writing is going to like obviously reflect that. You can't, in order to be authentic, you have to write from a place that you really feel, that's any sort of art that you're creating. You have to do that. And so a lot of people are upset that it's not as angry as, In Keeping Secrets of Silent Earth, and then as angry as like that Good Apollo Volume 1 album was like a very angry album. That was a breakup album, and he was like ripping that girl apart in that album. I mean, it's just like it's a very angry spot, very heavy emotions. And there was a lot of optimism and a lot of positivity in this album. And I think a lot of Coheed fans just really cannot handle that from Coheed. And to me, I'm just like, you've seen this from Claudio for years. Like, he did Jesse's Girl too. Like, he just wants to make music he likes. He wants to do nerdy stuff and make music he likes, and stop listening to it. If you really don't like the new stuff, don't listen to it. But what I don't understand is why, I mean, people get in those comment sections and they like just will tell you how stupid you are for thinking it's a good album. And I'm like, man, you got to like back off on that, because you're part of it. You're in a Coheed group right now. You're here amongst other fans. Like, if you got a problem with it, like, just stop listening. It's that easy.
Instead of torching the house that you all live in,
Yeah.
That was the big thing that I noticed was between In Keeping Secrets, in my opinion, In Keeping Secrets to VAXIS II, it felt like the story and the presentation became a little less serious. Like, I don't even necessarily need anger. I just need the concept to be treated as like tonally serious as it was on In Keeping Secrets. I buy into that whole thing, and I'm like, I see the world that is in that album in my head, or at least my interpretation of it, because the details are kind of hard to suss out from the lyrics, but knowing there's a story around it, I kind of invented my own, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And it felt very like that was like a kind of a serious album with some gravitas. This felt a little bit like almost like someone doing a parody of Coheed, as mean as that sounds. That was kind of my reaction to it, unfortunately.
So that's a common thing that people are saying, is that they feel like they kind of mailed it in. But like, to me, I don't know. I feel like I never took it seriously enough to be like offended if there was part of it I didn't like, it's just something I've always like seriously enjoyed. I mean, In Keeping Secrets is probably my top 3 favorite albums of all time. I mean, it is up there. It's that good. And I can understand exactly what you're saying with, it feeling like it's a little more serious, like there's a little more to it. There's a little more on the line. I think this storyline, from what I understand, what like Claudio Sanchez has said about where it's going to go, is like, it's going to get serious. Like, cause right now it's like VAXIS is like a little kid, so it's like they're treating it as like seeing the world through his eyes. And I think what they're going to be moving towards is as he starts to see the world for what it is. And then things are going to start to get heavy like it was before. But they just like I don't know. I think they're just always thinking about so many things all at once, that if you're going to like go in looking to be critical about it, like they're going to leave you a lot of stuff to be critical about. I think when you just like don't get so deep into it that you're going to be like upset if you don't like it, then you're going to have a much better time with it.
See, and what you said to me makes total sense, where it's like this album is supposed to sound this way because we're following what I have to assume to be a stand-in for his own son, Atlas.
Yeah.
Who it's crazy is like a figure in and of himself, and like the little Reddit Coheed stuff that I read. They just talk about him casually, like, whoa, when Atlas was born. So clearly VAXIS is Atlas. I know that little. And the difference between us is the only real Coheed experience I have at this point is In Keeping Secrets to this. But you have everything in between. So when you say, like, you have enough of an understanding of their style to know that it's a completely different thing. So, like, that explanation that you just gave helps tremendously. And that's, like, my one overarching criticism about Coheed is, like, I don't know where to find that information. The vertical integration with the comics and the albums and interviews and it's too much for me to chase down. That's why I never got that into them.
It's a lot. Like, it really is. but I think you can just listen to the, I mean, just if you have the songs that you like, just listen to the songs that you like, you know, and I think that's what a lot of Coheed fans do. Like the majority of Coheed fans are not buying, like I bought the box set and so I could get the story, like the book. You know, I bought the vinyl. Like the majority of Coheed fans are not getting that deep into it and like spending all the money on the merch and stuff like that. The majority of people are just listening to the music. You know, they don't care about the storyline. There's probably tons of Coheed fans that have been listening for like as long as I have and don't even have any idea that it's all a storyline. You know, it's just like the music. I think, you know, Claudio's always said the music is meant to, that's what he wants people to get into first. That's the entryway into everything. He's like, you can go as deep as you want, but that's the doorway I want people to come through. And I think it makes sense because obviously the music is definitely the most accessible part of any of it. So it makes total sense. That's where you want people to start because it's just clearly path of least resistance. But I think when you have like, when you listen to the other stuff he's done, like the Prize Fighter Inferno, and then you hear this album, it's like, he's always done these sounds, maybe not in Coheed, but like he's always done this. And like Coheed is the Claudio Sanchez show. You know, the other ones help him like flesh out the songs and like write the parts and everything. But like the concept and the ideas that's all him. And I think this, like his life is going to influence that. And if he's generally happy, he's going to probably make generally much like lighter weight music.
Well, yeah, I mean, that there again makes total sense when you pitch it like it is the Claudio Sanchez production. It's one guy who knows where he's going. And that's kind of a barrier for me, is like, that's again why I never really got into their music, was it just felt like too much in too many different places. So I'll just enjoy the songs that I enjoy, as you say.
Yeah.
But when you realize, like, I don't think it's a Claudio Sanchez vanity project. I think it's a passion project. We fling around artists all the time, but I will say I do think Claudio Sanchez is an artist. I respect the fuck out of what he's doing. I'm just a little too confused by it to have ever really engaged with it.
Yeah.
But I absolutely recognize that the dude has a world of talent and passion.
Yeah.
And it's great. I mean, clearly, because look how like easily you speak off the cuff about something you love that much.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, I don't know. It hit me at the right time and just was exactly the kind of music. It was different than anything I'd ever heard before, and just loved it ever since. You know, just that's how it went for me. But what do you say we get into the album?
Let's do it.
Let's start with it's the, I believe, second song on the album. I'm gonna have the list up here so I can, because the track listing is important on this simply because it is a storyline. So like the track titles are sometimes going to tell you about like what that song is going to be about. And this one was this one? Yes, one of your picks.
Yeah. So I'm not going to lie to you. I absolutely used Genius annotation for this. Mm-hmm. I figured it was a situation where that was appropriate to do because I'm so lost in the weeds. So I wanted to see what he said about it purely as a song. And because it seems to me, what I've gathered at least, is he's able to draw like the concept, like there's the overriding concept of the Amory Wars, VAXIS, etc. But song to song, something else will have inspired it. So like you said, Good Apollo was a breakup album. You know what I mean? So it's something like that, motivating the next phase in this larger story that he's telling. I think that's really interesting. So the annotation said that Beautiful Losers was about the band as an underdog. And here's an overall criticism I have for the album, which is going to kind of change the nature of our format. All the songs kind of sounded the same to me. I can't really find like much different to say about them song to song. So they're more conceptual things. But I want to talk about that with you, the Beautiful Losers. Do you see Coheed as underdogs?
Well, I mean, I don't, just because I've seen them sell out like thousands and thousands of people at like every show they play around the country. I mean, they headline at venues the size of like the Circuit of the Americas venue. So it's like, that's the same place like Darius Rucker is playing that. You know, they're like massive artists. Taylor Swift played that venue like 3 years ago. You know, so like that's a massive venue and they sell it out every time they play there. And they do the same in every other city they play in. And it's just, to me, it's just like in their genre, they are the biggest band there is. I mean, that's just, but it's a genre that not a lot of people like are into, and a lot of people just don't know about. I don't see them as underdogs, maybe in like the broad sense of like pop music or rock music. Maybe they're underdogs, but they generally get like heavy play on like the regular alternative rock stations. Like they're on there all the time now. Like these new songs from this album are on there all the time.
When you said that they were on MTV, and that's why I think it's kind of a weird when he was talking about like this band is an underdog. I was like, I'm not even a fan, and I'm not sure that's true.
Well, so they went from, A Favor House Atlantic, and then they had Blood Red Summer from that In Keeping Secrets album. And then a few years later, they had Welcome Home. And then that was basically it for like Coheed's like real commercial success. Like they built their fandom up enough that they like made plenty of money touring. But like MTV stopped playing music, and that was like a big vehicle for getting their music out there. They were not like radio friendly at that point. These new songs like Shoulders and Comatose, like those are very radio friendly songs. So they get played on the radio. But previously, can you imagine hearing In Keeping Secrets of Silent Earth on the radio?
Was that like a 7.5-minute song?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like it's just, there's not, or like Here We Are Juggernaut, like there's not songs that are going to be very radio friendly, at least and on mainstream radio stations. So like they kind of fell off a little bit. So I guess you could say they're underdogs because they had a bunch of success, but then like, weren't very nationally successful for a long time, other than with their fan base, which was still, a pretty good living to make. But I don't know. I guess I can understand why they see themselves as underdogs. I don't really see it that way because I don't think it's ever slowed down. Like every show I've ever gone to see them over the years and years that I've gone to see them has been sold out.
Yeah, that's what kind of made the whole underdog approach interesting to me. And I'm wondering about its placement in the context of the story on the album. And you can speak more about this one musically. You'll be able to speak more about these musically than I will. So I'm curious about your take on the song.
So I think this was the most obvious bleeding in of the Prize Fighter Inferno into Coheed and Cambria that we've seen yet. And we've always seen like Claudio loves synthesizers, loves them, loves vocoders. Like you hear it in this song, like loves that. So it sounds like auto-tune, but I think it's a vocoder because it like, I don't know. I think it's just not something that gets tacked on after. It's something he's like singing through. I don't know how it works. Maybe you know more about that. But to me, it's just like, it's a very like there's a lot of pop songs on this album. There's a lot of songs that he wrote, and he's always been good at hooks, like writing like really catchy riffs and hooks. Like he's always been great at that. But the lyrical content of those was often like very confusing or suspect or violent, so it wouldn't be something that would get played on the radio because of the content of it. Now it is. So I think that's another thing that people get upset about. And like, I like this song a lot. I like this whole album because I didn't go into it expecting anything other than I probably didn't know what to expect, because it's like, he's been doing so many different things lately. I'm like, like VAXIS Part 1, like got a little off the beaten path. Like The Dark Sentencer was as Coheed a song as I've ever heard in my life. I mean, that song fucks. Still does. Still listen to that one all the time. But this one, there was no like big heavy song other than maybe Window of the Waking Mind. Like, I mean, or Ladders of Supremacy. I'm sorry. That's like maybe the heaviest song. It's not even that heavy on this one. So I can understand why people thought there was something missing from their Coheed experience. But it's like, I just enjoy what Claudio Sanchez produces. I really enjoyed Beautiful Losers. I felt like it was a good intro to the album. I wouldn't be surprised if they use it as the intro to their upcoming tour, like as the intro song, because usually they pick one from the newest album, whatever one is the big like get the blood flowing banger. Like last time I saw them, it was The Dark Sentencer, and I mean that song, again, it fucks. Go check it out if you haven't. But I don't know. I really did like the way that Beautiful Losers, like it was Coheed enough, but it started to lean towards, with the vocoder, it started to lean towards, I was like, wow, this sounds like Prize Fighter Inferno. And then we get right into A Disappearing Act. And that one is just straight up electronic. Just straight electronic 80s. I really, really like this song a lot. And I think for me, the way that he just like leaned into it, like he just was like, I like using this stuff. Like the rest of the band can do their things to like help out with making this. They know it's my thing. So I'm going to do this. And this is, I think, one that is very divisive in the community.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you my take on A Disappearing Act. This is where business picked up for me on the album. I perked up on this one. It was very, like you said, it's very electronic. I got some like Future Islands flavor. I got some Killers. It was kind of like European discotheque. Because I checked out on the lyrics almost immediately. Because A, it felt like they were like weird in the mix, and B, I couldn't really understand what was being talked about. So I was like, all right, well, I'm just going to treat this as instrumentation and just listen to the whole thing as a song. And I found myself doing that on a couple songs that we'll get to, where I was like, I'm just going to kind of focus on the musical aspect of this.
Yeah.
And this was one of those songs that kind of broke with the concept album for me and was something I liked. It was danceable. It was fun. I like this one. So what's your opinion, and what is the split in the community?
So because it's so electronic, everybody's just like, oh, it's just a Prize Fighter Inferno song. Like, why is this on a Coheed album? And I'm like, fair point, but I think this song fucks. So I like it. I think it belongs. It absolutely belongs, because like Prize Fighter Inferno is just another side project that is like Coheed adjacent. So it may be that Claudio's like merging the storylines just because he decides he wants to do that. He's going to make himself like a Amory Wars universe type of thing, And I really like that pre-chorus, that I'm a long, long way from giving up. Call me old fashioned, call me a fool. That is catchy as hell. Claudio is so good at writing like catchy tunes and like catchy hooks. Like if he decides that that's all he wants to do, like he could write for other artists and like write like normal, kind of more mainstream type lyrics, probably be very successful at doing that, make himself a butt ton of money doing that. But he does it for his own band, and God bless him for it.
To segue into another song out of this, I think it was your first pick. What piqued my interest when you started talking about it off the top was as a story, where it's like, this is VAXIS as a little kid. That's why it's toned this way. I buy that. I get that. That's my way in. What loses me, I once again used Genius annotation. And Claudio admits he was stoned when he did this, and he was doing a Michael Jackson impersonation on the vocals during the verse. And I'm like, I can't fuck with that. That's just like, it didn't work. It didn't work for me at all. This song, like, it was so incongruous with the chorus, which was actually pretty like ballsy and had some bravado, and he uses like some Claudio voice. And then he goes back to the verse. He's doing this weird, have you seen the Jack in the Green kind of stuff. I could not get down with it. The doses of heaviness were really appreciated.
I really, I thought this one sounded kind of like The Weeknd. Did you get those vibes at all?
Kind of. I honestly got more Weeknd vibes from the whole vibe of Disappearing Act, but Bad Man, I kind of got Weeknd, but like I couldn't put my finger on what it was until he was like, it's Michael Jackson. And I'm like, this is what he thinks Michael Jackson sounded like?
Well, the thing is, I think The Weeknd like has said that he like thinks he is like sounds like Michael Jackson. I think a lot of other folks have said that. And it's funny because this sounds way more like The Weeknd, because I think Claudio's voice and The Weeknd's voice, like they can sound very similar if they like. I feel like The Weeknd could sing a lot of Coheed songs that don't have like the screaming and like the real growl type of stuff. You could probably sing a lot of Coheed songs and hit exactly the notes that Claudio does. Like I feel like they have the same kind of like register. So that's why with this one, I was like, is he really trying? Because I didn't read the Genius stuff. I was like, is he trying to like sound like an R&B singer, like a modern day R&B singer? Because that's exactly what it sounded like to me. It's funny that he said it was Michael Jackson, because like I did not get that at all. I definitely got The Weeknd though. Yeah,
neither The Weeknd nor Claudio Sanchez should be putting themselves in the same vocal pantheon as Michael Jackson. Like, let's be real. Claudio is the best there is at what he does. Absolutely. And The Weeknd's no slouch. But if you're going to come in here and say you're doing your best Michael Jackson and you do the widow thing,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah, and I would I think Michael Jackson was an excellent singer. So like I don't, and
Sure
I think Claudio is too, but not the way that Michael Jackson was. Michael Jackson could do a lot with that voice. But I really like, the reason I picked Badman as one of my picks was just because this is the one that I'm like, this is nothing like anything I've heard Coheed do before. That was the most interesting thing to me, because I was like, I've been listening to this band for 20 years. I've been listening to this band forever, the majority of my life. There are more years of my life that I've listened to Coheed than I have not at this point. That's how old I am. And I think like it helps it not get stale. Like, think about all the bands that you liked that they just never really changed. And like, you kind of just fell off from getting into the albums. Like, you'll still go back and listen to the old stuff, but like, you just fell off from getting into the albums, really. And I think that happens with a lot of artists because they think they have to deliver like one product. That's all they're good for. And I think, to his credit, Claudio's never believed in that about himself. He's like, I'm going to make the music that I want. It happened to be very heavy music at the start. It turned into very electronic when he did Prizefighter Inferno, and now the two have bled together.
Interesting. And I'm not familiar with Prizefighter Inferno either, so that, like, I feel a little hobbled by that too. I can't make those comparisons. This is so interesting because, like, you are a walking Coheed encyclopedia, and I am some guy who's drunk pissing on the side of a JCPenney's.
Well, the Prizefighter Inferno is the guy, I think guy's name is Jesse from the storyline. And so there's Coheed and Cambria and Jesse are like the three like super abilitied like assassins or whatever, or like a SWAT team type of thing. And so he is the Inferno is like his name, and he becomes a boxer. So he's the Prizefighter Inferno.
Interesting.
I'm just kidding. He doesn't become a boxer. He fights the prize. That they're like the head of the religious aspect of the Emery Wars and the fence in the universe.
Yeah, I don't know what any of that was. Whatever you told me could very well be true. I'll just say yes to all of it.
There's a lot to it. It's very convoluted universe. It's trying to get into it at this point, having not been into it for as long as I have. Like, I can't even imagine what it would be like. And I could understand that you probably just don't want to. And that's perfectly fair, because there's a shit ton of stuff to get into, and none of it makes any sense at all.
It's not a like stubborn unwillingness to.
Yeah.
I think I've just come to this realization. I'm like, I'm going to just play the hits.
Yep.
And not try to play catch up like Tanner getting into the Grateful Dead. Like, I'm not playing that kind of catch up.
No.
I like the 10 or so songs that I like.
Mm-hmm.
It's plenty. I don't really need to go much deeper. It's got an interesting story, a great lore. Jerry Garcia is interesting as fuck. The Grateful Dead as a thing is wonderful.
Yes.
I don't need to get that deep into every different recording of every song.
We should do a Grateful Dead concert. I wonder if we could do like a Twitch stream of watching a Grateful Dead concert or something.
I'm almost certain we could, because they encourage tape trading.
Yeah.
So it's not like, I don't think you'd get dinged copyright wise for doing it on
they'd probably
Twitch.
treat it as like a public domain type of thing.
I'd have to look that up. Wouldn't surprise me.
We should try to do. I mean, the concerts were really long, so maybe we just do like a snippet of one instead of like. But shit, maybe we just do the whole thing. See who comes along for the ride.
Tanner is salivating right now listening to this. He knows exactly which one he wants us to do.
Well, if he can provide a recommendation, and maybe that's something he wants to, hop on the pod for.
I don't think he'd mind. I don't think he'd turn his nose up at that.
Yeah, look at these wheels turning.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good shit.
We can definitely grind one out for sure.
Always grinding one out, baby.
Yeah. Well, what do you say we move on to, I think my favorite song on the album is Ladders of Supremacy. Now this was classic Coheed. If you came here looking for your In Keeping Secrets or your No World for Tomorrow or your Afterman Coheed, this song delivered that for you. Because boy, oh boy, did I have a fucking good time hearing this one.
I really like this one too because it was pure prog. It really fucking leaned hard into the prog. The thing I didn't need was lyrics. I looked at the annotation, and Claudio was saying that it's the moment where the characters go into the belly of the beast, and it's supposed to be this like very intense moment. And I'm completely buying into that until the lyrics start. I'm like, this for me would have worked way better as an instrumental interlude here to really convey that sense of dread. I didn't need lyrics. I preferred it without a vocalist in the mix, but like as a song, it's fucking great. It's great prog.
Oh yeah. And this is Coheed. Like I'm fine with whatever Claudio wants to do. Like I will listen to it. If I don't like it, I don't like it. There's stuff he's done in the past that I just don't really listen to because I didn't really enjoy it. But this song is the one. Like this is what he does best, is comes up with these big, epic, just incredible jams. And the way that they just so like seamlessly play around with like the different time signatures and moving in and out of things so quickly, and the way that they can just make it all sound so natural and easy that you don't realize how technical all of the things that you're hearing are. Like it's just, that's the mark of a band that's really, really great at what they do. Rush did the same thing. You didn't really realize how complex it is because they just made it sound so easy. And I think that's the thing with Coheed, is when they step into this pocket, when they get into this groove, there's nothing better.
I am like really fascinated by the technical musicianship of it. Shameless plug for Rick Beato, but he did a video about like the top 20 odd metered songs, like shit that was in 7/4, and a lot of prog stuff was on there. Frank Zappa, my boy, getting him into the episode, was at number 4 with Keep It Greasy.
Yep.
It's exactly what you think it's about. But like all the top stuff was prog, and it is noted for how technical it really is. And hearing that in Coheed is very gratifying, and hearing that in this song especially kind of gave me something to get invested in, because the things that were a little more, as you say, radio friendly, I had a harder time finding a way in. But like the prog element of this sucked me right in.
Oh yeah. And that's, I mean, for me, I wish they would just make all of their albums just like this, like this music. If they made all of it like that, I'd be perfectly happy, because that's like the Coheed that I love more than anything. I mean, the heaviest, like one of their heaviest songs is my favorite, Gravity's Union. I don't know if you've listened to that one or if I've told you to listen to that one, but it is Chef's Kiss, just beautiful. Just the super heavy, super hard, the biggest epic like ending chorus you've heard in your life. It's just incredible. And Ladders of Supremacy was the same deal for me. Like, it's just like, that's Coheed. Like, that's the one, that's the band that I'd like, you know, I didn't need I guess I would love if the whole album was like this, but I didn't need it to be. It's like, I just need something like this. Like on VAXIS I, The Dark Sentencer, the rest of the songs on VAXIS I were pretty good, and there were some really good ones. But that song, I was like, that's the one I needed on that album. It's every single album they put at least one like Coheed up your ass kind of song.
Coheed up your ass kind of song. I like that.
Yeah.
And these things all just have the coolest names, like The Dark Sentencer. That's cool. Year of the Black Rainbow. I'm like, okay, I like this shit. What album's Gravity's Union from?
So that one is from the Afterman Descension.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm making a little list here of things I should react to on the YouTube.
Oh, Dude. Gravity's Union is great.
Sweet.
Is great. Yeah. No World for Tomorrow is another one that's probably pretty popular on there. Really, like any of the newer ones, like The Dark Sentencer, probably be a good one, because that song fucks.
Sweet. All right, cool.
Yeah.
Looks like I have some stuff to check out.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I think I have to find, I guess it's probably my turn to do the video this time, so I got to find one to do.
Yeah, it is. It's you're up at bat.
Yeah.
So
yeah, so I'll find one. It'll be It'll be great. But I think we need to get back. We need to truck through. We're almost done. We're almost through this album. We're almost there. So the next one is one of your picks. It's Rise, Nyanasha. Cut the Cord.
This was, again, super prog and sounded the most to me like the Coheed I was familiar with. And I feel like a huge baby being like, it's what I understood, therefore I liked it. I was comforted by it. A stranger in a strange land. I related to it on that level. I'm like, okay, well, yeah, this is like Coheed classic. It's not necessarily a drive it up your ass song like you said in and of itself, but it pinged me. I liked it, and I know it was one of the singles that came out. The drums were the most interesting part to me. I read a tidbit on Reddit. It was a thread that was like, what are your criticisms of Coheed and Cambria? And I went to it after listening to the album to see if anyone felt the way it felt. And one of the criticisms was the drummer has no sense of dynamics. He plays it like one volume. He doesn't have a great sense of dynamics. I think that's true in this song, but I think it's perfect for this song.
Yeah.
It just kind of allows you to focus in on like how technically excellent the drummer is. The drummer is really fucking good.
Oh yeah.
My second time through the album, I kept an eye out for the drummer. I'm like, this drummer's great.
Yeah. And the thing is, he plays with one bass pedal.
That's insane.
That's
crazy.
Yeah. So Josh Eppard, so he like started out like he was part of the original lineup and everything. And then I think around like No World for Tomorrow, he had left the band. I think he had like got pretty deep into addiction and stuff like that, just kind of went off and did his own thing. That's why Taylor Hawkins actually played the drums on the No World for Tomorrow album on that Cozy album.
Shit.
Yeah. So they had, so that was why that album sounded different. Then they had a different drummer after that for a couple albums. Then he came back eventually, I think before the Color Before the Sun album, or maybe the one before that. I'd have to check on that timeline. But he's always been known to be like a very passionate drummer. Like if you watch him at a live show, like the dude looks like it's the same way Meatloaf used to perform. Like you just look at him, you're like, you get worried about him. You're like, is he going to be okay? Like this guy's like really leaving it all out on the field right now. But he's always been known to be like a very fast, very good, and very loud drummer. And generally in Coheed songs, like loud is fine. Loud works. But the songs they've been doing lately, it becomes apparent that he does need to figure out a little bit how to kind of get those dynamics right. I think he does better on this album than he had certainly on albums past when they did slower, softer songs. But he's just so good in the way that he can like just groove so well with one bass pedal and not have it be a double bass is like wild to me that his foot can even move that fast.
Yeah, it was really impressive. And that was kind of driving the prog element of Nyanasha, and that made all the difference for me, and that's why I really enjoyed that song.
Yeah. So Nyanasha is one of the parents of VAXIS. So you have that little tidbit there.
Okay, cut the cord. I'm starting to put it together now.
Yeah. Yeah, so that I was hoping to like as we went through just kind of like use as we go through to like explain the story bit by bit instead of having to be like, here's how it is. Here's start to finish what it is and then talk about the songs. I figured that was going to be the easiest way to do it, is just kind of like bring it up as we were moving along, like kind of what the things were meaning and what they stand for. And I haven't read the book yet. It's just, this is the most like obvious storyline writing that I've seen from Coheed as well, like throughout this whole album. Like it's very easy to follow, knowing the general parameters of what this storyline is. Like it's very easy to follow along with the story that he's trying to tell, like through this whole thing. And I think for fans, like that's great. I think previously when the lyrics were like a little bit angrier, a little more complex, it was easier for folks that weren't necessarily Coheed fans to like listen to the music like you prefer in Keeping Secrets to something like this. And I think that just shows exactly why, is because now like the focus is on the lyrics, and those are never going to be what gets people into Coheed and Cambria.
Well, to that end, the last song, Windows of the Waking Mind, your last pick, I was lost in the woods, that one. had a vague sensation, some vague notions, but I otherwise had absolutely no idea what was going on there. The annotation that I read was the really interesting thing to me. It was Claudio Sanchez was reading a lot about neurodivergence in children because he's got a son that's growing up, and he realized that a lot of what he was seeing was parents that want to fix that and like kind of have a more like neurotypical child, and to have that child have that experience. But instead of looking at it as a blight, he's like, there's this, if you look at it in a different way, as we should look at it, it's a different kind of elevated consciousness. So that is the concept for the song, where we're talking about this kid in this storyline. Interesting. However, I have absolutely no fucking clue what is going on from a storyline perspective or who these characters are.
So this is, I believe, in like, if you're a fellow child of the fence and I'm wrong about this, let me know. But this is where VAXIS, I think, is realizing that he's not the same as everybody else, where he's got something else going on. He is a window of the waking mind. So he's able to see, I think, all of time, I think, is the idea. Like, he can see everything all at once, like even the future, past, whatever it is. And that's why, like, there's speculation that Sirius Amory, which is who is the Afterman which is like the prequel, that he is involved in this storyline somehow. And people are like, how the fuck, like, he clearly had died. He wasn't like a like supernatural being. But if VAXIS can see all of time, like, that wouldn't matter when somebody died. He'd be able to see him as they were at any point in time at all. And that's why people are like, well, when does this storyline actually take place then? Does it take place after the Amory Wars? Does it take place after the Afterman? Like, is it before the Afterman? Like, when is it? And this song, I think, is exactly why everybody's like, doesn't know what to think. And I think that's exactly what Claudio was trying to do, is just be like, okay, you think you had it figured out, but remember, I've got 3 more parts of this storyline coming. So it's like, you can't have had it figured out, or otherwise, why would he need to do that?
And I think it's really interesting that it's definitely planned out, but he lets life influence it as well, and kind of like merges those two. I think that's really interesting. I think the other interesting thing about the song is, like, it's 8.5 minutes long, and then it's like little different suites. It's like the mother, the father, that kind of stuff, where the sound kind of changes dramatically. I like little tricks like that. I like those little compositional things. Again, it's another like Zappa thing. I like movements.
Yep.
Keeping it fresh, keeping it different. I really appreciated that part of this song, even if I had no fucking clue what was going on storyline wise.
So that's another like Coheed thing. So I'm gonna pull up. I should have realized I wanted to talk about this earlier, but let me pull up there. So on their albums, so like on Keeping Secrets, for example, they have towards the end of the album, they have the Camper Valorium series of songs. So there's Camper Valorium 1, Faint of Hearts, 2, Back into Forever, and 3, Al the Killer. So they have those suites. They do it again on Good Apollo, Burning Star 4, the album with Welcome Home, 10 Speed of God's Blood and Burial, which that song also fucks. You should write that one down. They do The Willing Well. There's 4 of those. And then where's the No World for Tomorrow? They do the fall. They have a 5-part suite of songs, and that's like just the No World for Tomorrow, the Fall of House Atlantic, like that goes on and on, but they have like a 5-part suite. So that's always been something that they do. And I don't think they did it for VAXIS, or at least not that I recognize, like VAXIS Part 1. So I think people were like, oh, now we're getting like Afterman references possibly. And now we're getting like the Amory Wars references by having these like suites of songs. And so everybody's like, what the fuck is going on? Like, where is this going to go? Like, where does this fall in the story? Did this even happen at all? It's like, it's so open-ended at this point that if you're really into this, like I am, it's gorgeous. It's beautiful. It's a wonderful place to be as a Coheed and Cambria fan right now.
That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
So I guess my take on this would be, if you're like me and you're totally unfamiliar with Coheed and Cambria, just go to the beginning and dig in. So in that sense, I would not give it a stream it if you're like me.
Sure.
On the quality of it alone as an isolated thing, absolutely give it a stream it. I just think, like, if you're not a Coheed fan, you won't get as much out of it. That was my problem, is with no basis in Coheed, really. I don't think I got as much out of it as clearly you did. Like, it's like hearing you talk about it, I'm like, Geoff had such a, like, vastly superior special experience with this album.
Well, I wouldn't say superior. I mean, just a vastly different experience, but that goes to my experience with the band, really.
Well, I would say superior because, in my subjective opinion, superior because I wish I was having as much fun as you were. It sounds
I see what
awesome.
you're saying. Yeah, that makes sense. I see what you're saying. Yeah. Well, I'm going to obviously say stream it, but I will also put the caveat on it that if you are not a Coheed fan, like, this is probably not the one that's going to get you to be a Coheed fan. There are other albums that will do that. This is not the only album I would also say this about either, that this is not the one that would get you into them. The Afterman albums, probably not. A couple of the Amory Wars albums, probably not. So Color Before the Sun, yeah, that might be one I send people to like get into Coheed for the first time. But I can absolutely understand if someone listens to this for the first time and like then goes to listen to other Coheed and it's like, is this the same band? Because a lot of the songs don't sound like it at all, other than it being Claudio having a very distinctive voice.
Essentially what I did is watch Iron Man and then watch Avengers Endgame. Nothing in between. I went, okay. Sure, I can skip 22 movies.
I feel like that's a way to put it that I think most people are going to understand.
Hopefully. I hope that resonates with this audience.
Yeah, I think far more than Coheed and Cambria probably will.
Potentially.
Well, Alex, did you want to tell the people about the YouTube and the strides we're making over there?
Well, shucks, we're about to almost hit 300 subscribers on the YouTube.
Right.
I don't know if people knew that. Sitting pretty, as of this recording, at 287. People are coming in fast and furious. The algorithm seems to love us. The people are interested in our infectious joy. Infectious is a word I see a lot in the comment sections. They're like watching us vibe out because we're not experts. We like what we like. And we're just chilling. And you can come chill with us on the YouTube, youtube.com/outonthatline/CO.
You're so good at that now.
I'm trying. I'm sure
Practice
trying.
makes perfect.
That's right. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Sports metaphor.
Yeah, that was I've really enjoyed the responses we've been getting. So if you've been in the comments section, like, we respond to as many as we can. I mean, it's just, there's like, I'm really not trying to brag. It's a lot. I'm not trying to brag, but there's a lot of comments all the time, especially on those Silk Sonic videos. Like, people just watch those videos all the time. Like, those are consistently in our top viewed. But we're always, every couple weeks, we're popping one for a couple of thousand every time, and it's just like, it's nice to know that, when you put in effort into this, and like, I think we went into this not really expecting, hopeful to maybe like have it be something someday, but not really expecting anything. To have it even be to this point is really pretty awesome.
It's very gratifying. And, like we always say, in the grand scheme of things, we're still the little engine that could, but people keep jumping on the bandwagon, and we're grateful for that. So thank you. And we'll keep coming up with some cute stuff.
Yes. And if you have anything that you want to hear us review here on the regular podcast, or do a reaction to, or do any sort of content about, music wise anyway. Yeah. Just, I feel like I could have opened us up to some real greasy stuff there if I didn't define. The internet is a bad place sometimes. So any music related things you'd like to see some content made about, you let us know. We'll either try to put that up in a video or talk about it on the podcast. But if you don't have anything else, Alex, until next time.